What's up, YouTube? It is your boy JB, and I am here today with the review for The Oval on BET. This is season 1, episode 21, I believe, you guys. If it's not correct, it'll be corrected on the screen. But the name of the episode is titled The Godfather. So, you guys, without further ado, let's go ahead and just get into this episode review. Alright, you guys, so this week's episode, it picks up where last week's episode left off. And you guys remember in last week's episode, Kyle was at Denise's store and he shot Yuma. So, Yuma, she tried to go for her gun, but Kyle stopped her from going for her gun. And then, she tells him, like, you need to call for help, like, I'm shot. I think he knows that. And I don't think he really cares about calling for help for you. So then she says, I'm working with the FBI and the DOJ, and they'll be looking for me. He says, where's your backup? So then, like, he completely manhandled her. He drug her across the floor, and then he tied her up and gagged her. I'm like, wow, Yuma, you kind of F-U-C-K-E-D'd really badly. So then we move over to the White House, and we see Gail. So Gail is talking to Brian, her lawyer, or her soon-to-be lawyer, about her wanting to emancipate from her family. And he asked her the question of, like, why do you want to do this? And, she says, well, if I tell you, does, what I say stay between you and I? He says, once you retain me as your lawyer, yes. He says, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to email you some documents that I need you to sign. So while they're on the phone, he emails the documents and she gets them immediately. Now, I know sometimes when you send an email, you can get it just like that, and then sometimes it takes a while before you get an actual email from a person. But whatever. And she signed the documents and sent them right back to him. So then she tells him, like, so then he says, okay, so what's up? So she tells her, her parents, they hate each other, they fight each other, and they abuse her and her brother. And he says, so what about your brother? Does he want to emancipate as well? She says, he's an idiot. So I don't know what's going on with him. And never mind, I'm just going to let it be. Let's move on. Alright, you guys, so then Kareem. So Kareem is back at the pharmacy, and he has lunch for him and Sharon. Now, when he does get back, Sam is there as well. So Sam wants to talk to... I just don't understand this shit. Like, really? Why do y'all have to cut the grass every week? It doesn't even have time to fucking grow. Shit. That's stupid. And then he's getting closer to my window. Okay, back to the show. I'm going to try to talk as loud as I can. So, Sam is asking Kareem, will he drop the charges against Barry? And, he actually asks who is Sam, and, Secret Service, and he's also Barry's godfather. So Kareem says, do you see my store? Like, why would I drop the charges against Barry? Do you see this? So Kareem says he's not going to, drop the charges. And, Sam was like, well, I'm asking you to do this as a favor for me. He says, and why would I do that? And Sam says, well, anyone who does a favor for me, that's something that they can always come back and collect on later at a later time. And Kareem was like, still, nope, it's not going to happen. So then we see Kareem, he's talking to Sharon once Sam leaves, and he asks Sharon, did she put, Sam up to that? She says, no, I did not do that. Why would you think that? Well, I mean, there's a lot of reasons he could think that, but whatever. So then over at the hospital, Richard is up out of bed, and Nancy comes in there, and she's nagging him about getting back into bed. And, he says he wants to check on Barry, and she says, Barry is okay. He's fine. He says, I just don't want him to talk to the police. And then he mentions Sam, and as he mentions Sam, Sam comes into the room. So, Sam tells him that, Barry will be able to get out of jail on bail. And they were like, how is that possible? He says, well, one, that body that they found, it wasn't Ruth's. The blood on the knife was an animal's blood. And they're like, okay, so what about the gun? And, Sam was like, that one, let's talk about that one later. And Rich was like, no, let's talk about it now. He says, well, they're going to pin it on someone else. Nancy was not cool with that, however. I'm like, really? Now I get the fact that you want Barry to be someone that's accountable for what he does, but shit like that doesn't happen often where you're able to get off on a technicality, especially as a black person. Just putting that out there, but yeah, that doesn't happen too often. So Sharon, I mean not Sharon, Nancy, I'm gonna need you to kind of pipe down on that one. So Nancy wants to know, so who are they putting this information on? And Sam was trying to be a little bit hush hush, but he couldn't because she kept going. And then they finally say Picky, and she's like, "My nephew, my nephew. So you want me to turn to my sister's son?" Them faces she makes, I'm sorry. Those faces she makes are horrible. Now, yes, I get it. That is your sister's son. She asks how did he die. Sam says in the gang shootout. But, like, I get it. He's your nephew. I get it. That's your sister's child. I get that. But a dead man tells no tale, so Picky can't say yes or no that he didn't do it or not. He's dead. I know that's a bad thing to say, but like, Picky was not your child. You didn't give birth to. Oh God, you didn't. You didn't give birth to Picky. Your sister did. So, and I'm sure your sister know what her son did. I'm just saying, like, I, I don't know, but yeah. So she gets mad and she leaves. So then, over at the White House, this scene was so random. We see Victoria. She goes and tells a maid not to let anyone into her bedroom. And the maid said, "Okay," and that was it. Let's move on. All right. So next we are introduced to Diane, who is the acting press secretary, and her aide comes in there, Ellie, to let her know that someone is trying to reach out about the situation with Gail. Her having a lawyer and her wanting to emancipate. So Diane answers the phone and it's Brian. And, Brian is telling her, hey, I talked to the first daughter. She told me some very disturbing things about her parents and she wants to emancipate. And, Diane's like, there's no way that you talked to her. He's like, you're right. We emailed and we video chatted. I'm like, y'all Skyped, Skype, Zoom, FaceTime. Which one was it? Just joking. Um, so he also tells Diane that he's going to go to court to get an emergency hearing, and she says, "I'm gonna need you to hold off on that." He was like, "Why would I do that?" And then she starts saying, "I know you value your career." And he's like, "Are you threatening me?" She's like, "No, I'm not threatening you." She says, 24 hours is what I need. He was like, okay, 24 hours, I'm calling you right back. So then we see Diane. She calls for Don, his assistant, Alan, tells him that, after all these episodes, we finally learned that dude's name, and we met him a few episodes ago, and we still just learned his name. That's sad. So Don asks Alan, has anybody, has he heard anything from Lily? He says no. So then he answers the phone, and it's Kyle on the line. And then he and Kyle have a conversation. Kyle asks him if he can go to lunch with Lily. He says no. He says, well, why didn't you? And then Don asks him, have you taken care of what you're supposed to take care of? And I don't know what he said. Actually, no, because he was so concerned about Lily. Because he's like, he needs to pay Lily a visit. And Don says, no, don't do that. And, Donald tells him, like, hey, you need to take care of the trash in the president's bedroom. He says, I'm on that one. I have a plan, and it's covered. So then they had this talk of, he was like, you got a soft spot for this woman. He says, as long as I have a hard spot for you, don't worry about it. I'm like, ugh. I didn't need to hear that, but, let's run with it. Let's run with it. Let's move on. All right. So next, let's move over to Gail. So Gail took the laptop back to Jason, and she tells me too that she had a conversation with the lawyer who's going to help her with her emancipation. He was like, "How's that happening? You don't have any money." She's like, "People will do anything for us. We're famous." He's like, "Okay, Miss Famous. So what is he doing for you?" She says, "Well, he's filing my emancipation paper. He's filing my emancipation paperwork." And he says, "So what did you tell him?" She says, "I told him everything." She says, "I told him how mom and dad, fight each other." He's like, "Wait a minute, you told him everything?" She was like, "Yeah." He was like, "You might want to call him back and tell him that you was lying." She's like, "Why would I do that?" He says, "Because they are going to lose their shit, and then they're going to think that I had something to do with this as well. So that'll put me in it." And so he says it'll affect him. She says, "Well, how about this? You come with me because Brian said that I needed a witness, so why don't you come with me?" He says, "No." Then she tries to bribe him. She's like, "Well, I know you like, Gene, right?" He was like, "Yeah." I'm like, "You disgusting Me Too movement." So then she's like, "Well, what if I could help you with Gene?" He's like, "What do you mean?" She's like, when I was in her car, I heard her talking about mom and dad, and she's not supposed to talk about them, and she could lose her job, and just judging by where she lives, she needs this job. So he agrees. I'm like, both y'all are stupid. So then we see Kyle. So Kyle, he goes and he's talking to Max. Now Max, well, actually, now this was weird to me because I didn't realize it. I didn't really know if this was a setup or what, but we'll talk about it nonetheless. So Kyle tells Max that he wants to tell him everything that's going on. So he does. He tells him that Denise brought the drugs in, which I don't. Did she bring the drugs in or not? It doesn't matter. She brought the drugs in. The president got super high, and accidentally killed her, which we don't know that for a fact, but it can be implied. So then Max says, "I don't believe you." I'm like, "Really, Max? You don't believe him?" Even Kyle said, "Max, you saw that mattress. You saw that blood. Anything that lost that amount of blood did not survive." So then Kyle tells Max that he's working with the DOJ and he's building a case against the president. I'm like, "Now that's a lie." And he needs someone he can trust. I'm like, "Really?" Now, if Max is dumb enough to believe that Kyle is coming to him because he needs someone he can trust, Max is a dumbass. Max tells him, "You know what? I don't trust you." I'm like, "Good." So then Kyle tells him that he needs someone that he can trust to move the mattress out of the residence and preserve it. Now he says, "You can take it wherever you want to take it. You can hold all the cards. You don't have to tell me where it's at." He says, "But we have to act fast because Victoria is watching the mattress like a hawk." And I'm like, "Okay, this still doesn't make sense to me, but maybe it will sooner or later." I couldn't make heads or tails of that situation. I really couldn't. Because I feel like I know what's going on. I feel like Kyle is setting Max up. But how? You know what? The cameras. There are cameras in the residence, isn't it? Got it. I think I got it. I think I know what he's doing. Let's move on. All right, so Hunter's in the Oval, and Ellie goes into the Oval. Well, actually, she wasn't in the Oval. She was talking to the lady out in the hallway, and her name was Carolyn. I got that from the closed caption. Sometimes Tyler Perry doesn't do a good job with introducing characters. You just see their names on the screen, and that's it. But I'm not going there, but I did. So Hunter notices Ellie. He tells Ellie, "Come on in." I'm like, "Really? You just lost your main bitch, your bottom bitch, and now you're going to another one?" Okay. He will chase anything with a skirt. Now I see where Jason gets his pervy ways from. So, who the fuck is Denise? to that bitch. Why did I put Denise? I meant to put Diane. Diane goes to Donald's office and she's talking to his aide Alan about Donald. And she goes into Donald's office to tell Donald that they need to have a meeting with the president and the first lady about this stuff with Gail. So Donald tells Alan to call the first lady to have her come down to the Oval so that they can talk. And then he calls Kyle and tells Kyle that the window is open. And then Kyle calls Max, who just called Yuma, trying to check on Yuma. And you know, Kyle tells Max, "Hey, you're clear." And I'm still thinking to myself, like, Max, you're stupid. You do realize this is a setup. Now, what I just said a few minutes ago. If there are cameras in the residence, I don't necessarily know how Kyle could put this on Max, because you guys have already said that it was a gang shoot. You already planted it that Denise got caught up in gang violence in her store. Gang violence in her store. And then what else? And then I think it's two different days. So even if you look at the footage, but you have to look at the footage of everybody that's been in that room. I just don't know. Honestly, I don't know where Kyle's going with this one. This one actually has me stumped. Let's move on. Cause I'm trying to think about it. All right, you guys. So Hunter, God, he is a perv just like Jason. Like that's where Jason gets it from. Me Too gets it from Hunter, and Lil Bitch gets it from Victoria. They take traits from both of their parents. So, Hunter is still in the room in the Oval talking to Ellie. Victoria comes in and she notices Ellie and she's like, "What the hell are you doing in here and alone with him?" And Hunter tells Ellie to leave and she's like, "No, I'm talking to her. You stay." But she ends up leaving, and she said once Ellie leaves out, she's like, "You got to be the stupidest asshole. Like I'm trying to clean up that shit up there upstairs in wherever the residence is. I'm trying to clean up the shit in our room, and you here looking for your next victim." He was like, "Next victim?" She's like, "Yeah. Did you tell her you get high and decapitate a bitch?" Then she asked him, "Why the hell was I called down?" He says, "I didn't call you down." So then Diane and Donald come in and they tell them about Gail and her claims to try to get emancipated. And the fact that she said that they beat her physically and they fight each other as well. And then Diane pauses for a minute and Victoria says, "Speak, bitch. Like, speak, bitch." I'm like, speak, bitch. And then she also says that, Gail said that she was raped. And I'm like, you little lion. One minute you want to feel bad for Gail, but then the next minute it's just like, really, little girl? You still going with these lies. So then they both decide to attack each other's parents, and I'm like, neither one of you are winning Parent of the Year, Mother of the Year, Father of the Year. So, now the way that Victoria talks to people, because she was just straight up rude to Donald and Diane, and if I were them, I know that that's your job, but I would have slapped the piss out of Victoria. She would have been picking up her teeth. Now, Diane and Donald are getting ready to leave. Actually, Diane leaves, and when she leaves, under one of the little throw pillows, there's some panties. She grabs them and she leaves. I'm like, ugh. So I'm assuming that those were her panties. So then Hunter, it's just him, because actually Victoria had left before that. And so it's just Hunter and Donna. And Hunter is talking about the fact that Diane is fat and he wants a new press secretary. She's fat. And I'm assuming that those were her panties that she pulled out from up under that pillow. So she must not have been that fat for you to slide up in her. She must not have been that fat, Hunter. Like, Hunter is an asshole. You know, if somebody just put a bullet between Hunter's eyes, I wouldn't even I wouldn't even flinch. I wouldn't cry. I wouldn't do shit. So Don tells Hunter that he'll go meet with the lawyer. Okay, Donald, do whatever you gotta do. Hunter doesn't care. Hunter is chasing some puss at this point. That's all he wants. What a ass. Alright, you guys, and then I'm gonna wrap this up. So Max, he got a call from Yuma. Yuma says that she needs him and she's hurt. He says, okay, I'll come with backup. She says, no, come alone. Now, wouldn't that set you off right there if someone says, hey gosh, they're hurt, but not to come with backup? Wouldn't you question that? Like, come on. I'm hurt. Okay, come with backup. Oh no, don't do that. Well, bitch, I'm not a paramedic. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a nurse. What do you expect me to do? No one thinks. Never mind. Again. So once she get off the phone with Max, she asks Kyle to call an ambulance for her. He says, no, you'll be all right. Because at this point, she's sweating bullets. He's like, you'll survive. So then we see Victoria. She goes to the residence. She's looking for Gail. And then she notices that their bedroom door is open. And she asks Jason, why is the door open? He says, huh? She says, why is the door open? He says, I don't know. He says, I think the Secret Service left it open. I'm not sure. So then she goes and talks to the little maid. And she says, I thought I told you no one was supposed to go in there. She's like, well, the Secret Service told me that they needed us to clean up the room. Oh. Max is not as stupid as I think he is. I don't think Max moved that bed. He had somebody else move that bed. Gotcha, Max. Okay. And, she says, did I do anything wrong? She says, no, that would be your parents. I'm like, wow, that was rude as fuck, Victoria. So then Diane, she's back in her office, and Ellie comes in, and she was grilling Ellie about, fucking the president. And Ellie said, I did no such thing. And she said, your lipstick is smudged. She says, my lipstick is not smudged. Girl, you can even act that scene out perfectly. That your lipstick wasn't smudged. Because she started laughing. I'm like, wow, that was terrible. Terrible. So then Diane pulls out them panties. Talking about, I'm going to check these against your DNA. And once I check them against your DNA, if it's a match, you're fired. I'm like, Diane, unless you're going to take something that's hers, like maybe find a cup with her DNA on it and just doctor those tests, the coochie juice on them panties is yours. Just putting it out there. So then to close in the episode, Max, he goes to Denise's store. Kyle, he goes in there. Him and Kyle had this slap fight with each other. That fight was so terrible and fake. I could not get past that fight scene, but that was the over, you guys. Be sure to like this video, leave your comments, subscribe to the channel, hit that bell notification button so you guys know when I drop anything else. Share this video, and until the next one, you guys stay safe and take care of yourselves. And I will see you guys later. Bye. Now I think we only have a few more episodes left of this season. I think it's probably like 2 or 3. How are you guys feeling? Leave that in the comment section below.